This conference will now be recorded.
So good morning. I'd like to call to order the Taos County Board of County Commissioners regular meeting Tuesday, December 6, 2022. And for the record, it is 9:08. And Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Fambro?
Present.
Commissioner Gallegos? Commissioner O'Donnell?
Present.
Vice Chair Brush?
Present.
Chair Vihil?
Present. Okay, and I'd like to turn this over now at this time on the inspirational devotion to Commissioner Fambro for a few words.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now's the time that we reflect on family and our community, especially during the holiday season. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. And it was a joyous time for you and your family. And now comes the Christmas and Hanukkah seasons. And it's a time for us to try to put the negativity from the past aside for the rest of the season. And if doing that works out for you, then maybe we could be a little more positive coming that New Year's resolution time that we hold on to for about, 7-8 days, something like that. And especially if it has to do with a diet or something like that, those don't work. So if we can just take some time to silently sit there and think nothing but positive thoughts about friends, family, our community, and that we'll pledge to make this one of the best times that we've had with our friends and family and enjoy the decorations and the beauty that comes with this time of the season. So if we can just keep those positive thoughts going, I think our community will be a better place. Thank you all.
Thank you. We have Eleanor, Isla, and Vera from members from the coding team that will start us off on the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please do us the honor and get us going on the Pledge of Allegiance? Please stand. Please, yes, thank you. Come forward and you'll just get us going. Thank you very much. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Vice Chair, would you please lead us into the salute?
Sure thing. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you, ladies. Okay, so before us is the approval of the agenda. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda with moving item 12A to right after 7A. This is to accommodate Judge Chavez.
Okay. Is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the agenda and with moving 12A after 7A. Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush?
Yes.
Chair Vihil?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I almost wasn't going to second that because he made me sit through a whole trial one time and then drew my name out as the alternate. So there was 9 hours of my life that he'll never give me back, but I got over it. I'm not thinking about that at all ever again.
Madam Chair, I would have gladly taken the commissioner's place because I have yet to be called on jury duty.
Careful what you ask for.
Okay. Unless someone amends it. Okay, well, let's go forward. Okay, so next we've got 12A after, okay, I'm sorry. 7A is citizens' concerns. Citizens wishing to speak shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. And just a reminder, no action may be taken. Is there anyone present in the chambers that would like to come forward at this time for citizens' comments? Seeing none, anyone online? Vice Chair, do you see anyone? I'm not very good at capturing. Caller 1, would you like to speak? No. Okay, doesn't appear like we have anyone. So let's move on to, now we're going to go on to, let me jump here real quick. A presentation regarding improving the court and community response to those with mental illness in New Mexico. And with us today is our Honorable Judge Emilio Chavez. Good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I very much appreciate the time. I do have a docket and I don't want to keep others like Commissioner Fambro waiting. So I will do a little plug is the alternates are essential when we have jury selection because sometimes, and we've had trials where we've gone through 3-4 alternates. And so sometimes it is essential, although hopefully it was at least interesting, Commissioner Fambro. But as to our presentation, the Supreme Court had a behavioral health summit that had got delayed for the pandemic for 3 or 4 years. I went along with our program manager, Hannah Smith, other providers in the county, other representatives from Colfax and Union. And part of the reason, and not to lay a guilt trip, we didn't have representation from the county. I did get Sheriff Hogriff, who did come and participate. And really the idea, and it affects all of us in our various capacities, whether it's through friends, family, through the jail, through the judicial system, is people that are struggling with mental health that impact the community. And really the concept is the things that we've done in the past, haven't worked. We've kind of left this population unattended. They really don't get the resources, the help, the assistance that they need. For example, someone struggling with mental health that has a case that's relatively simple in our magistrate court, suspended or a revoked license, and we tell them, you got to go figure out how to get your license. And all of you can sympathize. I tell people when I do name changes as a district judge, I'm a district judge, and when I go to the motor vehicle division, it takes me 3-4 times just to make it happen. And we're having somebody that's really struggling that maybe is not perceiving reality in the same way as maybe some of us do, that have to go navigate these waters, set up appointments, address things that they need to do to prevent them from coming back into the system. The other impact that it has on the counties, and I had briefly just discussed that with Mr. Silva, is the amount of time these individuals spend at our county detention center across the way here from the commission chambers. And I'd estimate it's upwards of 150 days that the county's paying $100 a day for these individuals when they spend more time in jail, incarcerated, than sometimes individuals that are accused of much more serious crimes. Our hope is to find a way before they get in the judicial system, before they get to the jail, to get them services, to work towards what we call an intercept zero model, where we're trying to get them before they're in the system and divert them to services where they really can get assistance that they need that's going to prevent them from being in our jails, from affecting our community and really getting them better outcomes. As you guys may be aware, and the county's rolling out the 988 system. And the 988 line, the basics is it's a crisis line where somebody can call when they have emergency need, and then they can get connected with therapists, with appropriate counseling, or even someone talking them through the situation, and then hopefully getting that connection to services. And so Ms. Smith has provided, and I believe it's available, a PowerPoint presentation, and she'll walk you through that. But some of the dialogue that we want to talk about in discussing at least the groundwork, where we want to work, things we want to improve, hopefully for our county. One of the biggest parts that they're talking about, simple things. And I think sometimes we always look the big picture, and we don't need the big picture always right away to make it happen, is incremental steps. And at that behavioral summit, peer navigators, people that have been through it, that have gone there, that are going to help connect to services. Then the other part is connecting, and I know you guys have a long agenda, so I'll try to tighten it up, although attorneys and judges aren't always brief. Oftentimes a lot of us are duplicating efforts. There's a lot, we went to the Behavioral Health Summit, then I went to a provider meeting in Taos, and we were all doing the same things, but we weren't talking to one another. So the county may be making efforts, the court may be making efforts, and providers, and if we can collectively find a way at least to bring those efforts together to make these changes. With that being said, I'm going to introduce, and I don't know if you guys know Hannah Smith, but Ms. Smith will be presenting our PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Judge. And thank you, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having us here today. We really appreciate it. As Judge mentioned, I'm here to kind of discuss what came out of the Improving the Court and Community Response to Those with Mental Illness Summit that happened in October of this year. It's already December, that's crazy. I'll try to make it quick. I think Judge did a really wonderful job of articulating the big picture vision of some of the stuff that we're talking about. I'm gonna take it a little bit more to the work itself, right? I am interested in systems development. I think that the court is very well positioned because it touches on so many of these key community systems, that's the thing that the Supreme Court of New Mexico is recognizing with this summit, is that the court is uniquely positioned to bring all kinds of stakeholders together so that we're not operating in these silos, right? And I think that that's probably the biggest thing that can come out of this work, is if we can just prevent this siloing of work, this duplication of effort. We don't have a lot of resources, so it's really important that we collaborate in order to make this happen. Next slide, please. Or can I control it? I don't think I can. Excellent, thank you. So the themes of the summit were hope, compassion, recovery, connection, which I think is really drawing out this idea that we want systems that better serve our most vulnerable community members. We had great representation from Taos County, from the courts, from the Taos County Sheriff. I believe Judge texted him and he drove down on his day off, which we really appreciated. We had the Office of the Public Defender, and we had several treatment providers who were represented at this table. So it's a nice, diverse group. So we were able to kind of get everyone's little piece of this system. The biggest takeaway of this process was an effective response to individuals with mental illness in our community requires collaborative systems building. The more we work in isolation, the less likely we are to be successful. Next slide, please. So the vision of all of this work, just to kind of, again, I think Judge did a really nice job of articulating this, but a Taos County where people have access to the treatment and support they need, services that promote recovery, enhance public safety, which I think is the other big component of this, and improve lives. A local system that better addresses individuals with complex mental health needs instead of overburdening our local law enforcement, including our jails, right? The better our treatment services are, the better positioned we are to keep people from wasting away in our detention center, which again costs the county quite a bit of money and can be very complicated. Next slide, please. So working towards a coordinated court and community response requires assessing the current situation. Part of the work that we've been doing for the past several years, and I'll kind of get more into that in a minute, is identifying the gaps in our local systems that lead to poor outcomes and identifying the ways in which we can all better work together. The goal of all of this is to develop collaborative processes that improve our services and systems and ensure that we understand the needs and are using resources effectively to address that needs. I think that we've all heard a lot of, oh, we need to do this, we need to do this right now, we need to do this, and it's kind of this constant churn of forward motion that doesn't necessarily move forward, right? I think the idea is that if we are having these collaborative conversations, we can really intentionally identify what it is that we need to be doing, making sure that we're not spending a lot of time and energy creating something that isn't actually what's needed in the system, right? Maybe someone else is doing that over there and we just don't know about it. Next slide, please. So all of the work in the summit was building off of probably about 3 or 4 years of work that the courts have been a part of, including our Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. That was established in, I think the slide says 2020, but I believe actually it was in 2019. It's a statutorily mandated council that convenes criminal justice system stakeholders. We meet twice a month in Taos, or once every 2 months in Taos, once every 2 months in Raton. It engages law enforcement, government, the courts, the jail, treatment providers, basically any sort of piece of the system that touches on our criminal justice system. That's where a lot of the work is supposed to be getting done, right? That's where all of these diverse stakeholders are coming together. And I think that we've done a really nice job in the past year or so of really using those meetings to start to move work forward. We're developing working groups, including a juvenile matters subcommittee, a jail matters subcommittee. All of these are convening the correct people to start to identify how we solve some of the issues we're identifying. From the CJCC work, in February 2022, Scott Patterson from the Administrative Office of the Courts facilitated our sequential intercept model mapping, which again is a key component of identifying gaps in the system and identifying better ways of coming together to address these problems. All of that work was continued in the October 2022 Summit on Improving Response to Mental Illness. Some of the key things that we identified from the summit is that we need to hire a coordinator temporarily to kind of move some of this work forward. And I'm pleased to announce that last month, we were informed that we received $25,000 to hire a coordinator for about 6 months to do some of this work that no one really has the time or the energy to do. So it's very exciting that we're able to actually capitalize on the momentum that we currently have, and we'll hopefully fill that position soon and can really see some progress in the next little bit. And then, yeah, just going forward, the big goal is the systems change implementation. It's identifying how we go about moving forward. I have a slide on the sequential intercept model, which again is just identifying all the various points in the system where individuals have contact with either the criminal justice system or with treatment providers. And what we want to do is really build that out more substantially. But I'm going to move forward because I know that you guys have a very long agenda today. And so I don't want to waste your time explaining things that I can share information about if you want to learn more. Finally, next slide, please, because I think Judge has to get to his docket. I'm very sorry. Again, just the priorities identified from the summit: hire an external person to support coordination, which again, we can check that off. I love it when I make a list and I check something off. The other thing is ensuring that our 988 crisis response system supports the navigation of local resources. And I think this is, again, the more we can come together to talk about these things, like I don't know what the county is doing in relation to 988 or if there's something going on more regionally, but the court is uniquely positioned because we touch on so many of these different services to offer information or to build these bridges, right? Another thing, and this is what Judge mentioned, is develop peer-based navigation services for justice-involved individuals. Again, that's something that we're looking for funding to continue to do or to start doing. And then finally, and this is the big one, and I think this is why we're all here today, is to engage local government in this process, right? We want to ensure that if you're doing good work, if you're looking to kind of build out these systems, that we're at the table. And we want to make sure that when we're having these conversations that we have you at the table as well. And with that said, then the last thing is the next CJCC meeting, which is on the next slide, is January 6th at 9 a.m. We'd appreciate you or any other stakeholder who's interested in attending to come and kind of hear the conversations we're having. And if there's ever anything you want to add to the agenda or any kind of conversation that you want to figure out, well, who can I talk to help move this forward, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm very good at connecting people, so I'm always more than happy to do that. I think that's it for me. Any questions or comments?
Any questions, commissioners, or comments? Okay,
Madam
Vice
Chair,
Chair, please.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Hannah. This is important. I know Commissioner O'Donnell and I did attend the sequential intercept model summit back in February. So it's interesting. It's important to have a follow-up and to have you come here and tell us what's going on, what the next steps are, and also, frankly, what you need from us. And it sounds like the first thing you need from us is for us to attend, at least one or two of us, to attend the January 6th meeting. And I'm just wondering, like, I'm hopeful you'll find somebody for that coordinator position. I know that that's a challenge right now, but it sounds like your next step is to do the hiring. Our next step is to show up to the regular meetings. Is that fair?
I think that's completely fair.
More than fair. And just to say, obviously, you can see Hannah and I are both excited about this because it's something that we can really see benefits in our community. Wanted to keep you informed. We could talk for hours on this subject. We hope as representatives of the county that you can, well, commissioners, that you can direct representatives of the county to be involved, and also understand the county doesn't have to do it on their own. They can collaborate with us. those of you that have already participated in the sequential intercept model. With that being said, I really do appreciate Chair and Commission moving
Thank
us
you.
up in the order. Commissioner, if you get a random jury service, it's not because of your comments, but it is that lucky draw, buy a lottery ticket at the same time. Thank you guys very much for your time.
I would like to
Are
also
you really
say
going to
thank
court
you.
or are you going to hit golf balls?
I wish I could hit golf.
Thank you very, very much. I'm very excited to hear what you all are doing. I understand Mr. Cordova, Zach Cordova, is he part of the
He is very much
group? Yes, Chair? Yes, great, excited. So certainly we want to definitely participate in any way that we can. So I'm sure you're going to see our faces. Join us.
Fantastic. Happy,
Thank
safe
you.
holidays.
Thank you.
If there are no more questions, I will also.
Hannah, thank you very much. Great
Excellent.
presentation.
Thank you all so much
Thank
for
you
making the
very
time. We appreciate it.
much. Okay. Kind of funny how we managed to talk about golf. Okay, next, let's move on over to item A, awards and recognitions. A presentation of certificates to coding teams, the Flying Bananas, Taco Cat, and Coach Lee, is it Shaver? Did I say Shaver? Okay, please. Rose, would you please lead us off here? Thank you very much.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. First of all, my name is Rose Reza. I'm the Executive Director of UNM Taos Hive, the hub of internet-based vocation and education. One of our core strategies is education, and we've really focused on both youth and adult educational programs. And I'm really excited, and I'm so very proud of all of our students that are here today. So the Hive is a network member of the Center on Rural Innovation. So we work with 33 rural communities on different programs, all focused on economic diversification. One of our rural communities in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, started a youth coding league. Right now, just in Cape Girardeau, they have 50 of their schools competing on this youth coding league. And Taos Academy, under the leadership of Lee Shaver as the coding coach, took the lead because I said, I want to bring this program to northern New Mexico. I have secured funding for 5 years to grow this program to 5 schools in 5 years. And I already have sponsors who are willing to contribute if we have more schools that want to get involved. Friday, I have a call with Cimarron. I have another one with Mora, who are all interested in participating. So I'm really excited. And so I'd like to introduce the coach, Lee Shaver from Taos Academy. Lee, if you want to come up. I want him to introduce the students. And I want him to kind of give you an overview of the key learnings and the skills that these students are doing. And if you haven't taken a chance to see the work of art on the website, you need to see it because it's absolutely incredible.
Well, thank you, everyone. We're honored and grateful to be here. Thanks for inviting us. I was invited last minute. I had never heard of this Youth Coding League, and so I had no idea what I was getting into. But I know exactly who to ask to join me, and there are 5 students behind me that really pulled their weight and did some amazing work. And I'm honored to be a part of this work because I think that computer science, and particularly computer programming in schools, it doesn't get enough attention, and maybe it's thought of as this kind of niche area of learning, but it's so much more than that. These students, I can guarantee that these students have practiced problem-solving skills and have had fun and have played with creativity. And I think we should have more computer programming in schools because it moves much, much farther than just programming computers. There's logic and math and problem solving in there that they can take to other areas of their lives. So the 5 students that we have here today are just part of the 20 or so that we had in their team, and they have risen to the top with their hard work and creativity. And here in about 3 days, they will find out if they have won it all. So here in the tiny community of Taos, we have the best teams in New Mexico. We are the only teams in New Mexico. But they've been competing against schools and teams all over the country, and here they are in Taos, possibly to be the best in the country in this Youth Coding League. So they should be very proud of their work, and I'm very honored to be working with them. And super thankful for Rose and the Hive for having sponsored us. They've been incredibly supportive and promoting us, and hopefully we'll have more of this, and maybe we'll see you here again.
Great, thank you. Yes, let's do that.
Do you want to introduce your students?
Of course. course.
We have,
I will. Can we have the taco cats and the flying bananas? Come on up.
Rosalie, thank you for creating the opportunities, and you guys, congrats on your achievements so far.
Right. I do want to tell you, I voted. Okay, so I voted. And I also took the opportunity to see what you all are doing. So I was really super proud, super proud of each and every one of you.
Here, should we say by the mic? Should we start with the taco cats since that's where we are? So we have the coding team, the taco cats. And our first certificate of achievement is Vera Bell. Vera, congrats. Congrats. And then we have also with the taco cats, Eleanor Breyer. Congrats, Eleanor. Great job. Great job. And the last taco cats member is La Rock. Congratulations.
Okay, and I will start with the coding coach, Lee Shaver. Thank you very much. Congratulations. And this is with Team Flying Bananas, Elijah Reynolds. Okay. And Jude Woodrich. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at names sometimes. Thank you, congratulations, very proud of each and every one of you. Yes.
And just, this was a national competition, national. And our teams made it to the finals.
Move in a little bit more, baby.
Oh, yeah, let me come in.
Okay. Okay, smile. Queso. There you go.
Awesome.
Wasn't sure if they could see me standing behind you.
Yes, you are welcome to stay, or if you need to leave, we understand. So thank you for being here once again, and congratulations again. Okay, yes.
Great job, guys. Great job.
Okay, let me see, guys. Let me put myself back in. Where am I? Okay, we're on minutes. Yes. Okay, let's move on to minutes. And before us is item A, approval of the October 18, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Commissioners, are there wishes?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the October 18th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
Second?
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve October 18, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Vahill.
Yes. Next is approval of the November 1st, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Commissioners?
Madam Chair, motion to approve the November 1st, 2022 regular meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve November 1st, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Please call for the vote.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Vahill.
Yes. Approval of the November 15, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
Madam Chair, move to approve the November 15th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
Second?
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve November 15, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Okay,
Commissioner
next.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Vahill.
Yes, thank you. Next, we've got county manager report and matters. Update to county commission on various items affecting Taos County. Our county manager is online. Mr. Jaramillo, you ready?
There's, as you know, and for the viewing audience, I am in Albuquerque. I'm attending the Better Informed Public Officials Conference. It's set to start now at 11:30 with our 3 commissioners-elect. Commissioner Vahill will be joining us later in the day. We'll be here for the next 3 days. And so we look forward to the training. That's why I'm up front. In a little bit, I'll be transitioning over to the conference space. I would like to begin with and I'll keep it brief this morning. Our internal audit has been submitted on the deadline. We had the audit exit conference. The chair and vice chair participated in the exit conference. The audit firm, Cordova and Associates, will present their findings to the commission in the spring once the Office of the State Auditor has released the report to the public. The staff has been working on the commission retreat for the new commissioner-elects and the remaining two commissioners. And so that again is scheduled for December 14th and 15th. The outgoing commissioners are also invited to attend the retreat as well. Department heads over the last 3 Mondays have been working on the presentations. And so we're working hard on that. The Planning Commission, that deadline is coming up, and we've only received one applicant or one letter of interest for the Planning Commission. So that's why we're pushing it out on Facebook. There has been ads in the Taos News. Like I said, we only have, and I'm double checking with Rachel, but as of last week, we only had one person apply for the Planning Commission. So we need to encourage folks to attend that as well. And then the other thing that staff's working on is with Awakening Productions and the new radio station with Daniel Cordova regarding the senior citizen dance that we've previously talked about in another commission meeting. That is going to be held December 16th from 2 to 6 p.m. Anissa will correct me if I'm wrong. And we also worked on getting sponsorship for gifts for the seniors, and Laura Foundation is going to be paying for the food for the seniors. So it looks to be like a great event to honor our seniors, and we thought it was something that we needed to do. And for meetings I held over the last few weeks, is I met with Stephen Mayer regarding a community block efficiency grant and conducting an energy audit for the county. So we're going to continue that conversation. This relates to the bill that Representative Ortez sponsored and was passed and signed into law. I also had a meeting last week with Patrick Schaefer. He's the general counsel for the Department of Finance and Administration. The purpose of the meeting was to try to obtain a sample agreement that the town of Taos will need to present to the local government division for their signature for the transfer of the detox property. I was in Santa Fe for another meeting, so I went down there to see if we can move that process along. Mr. Schaefer didn't have an agreement readily at hand, but he is going to work on something that he'll provide to me, and then I'll provide that to the town of Taos, who will then in turn provide it to the local government division. I also met with Acting Secretary of Veterans Services, Donnie Quintana, regarding future capital outlay support for the administrative building for the Veterans Cemetery, and a strategic partnership with the running of the cemetery with the Department of Veterans Services, i.e. providing the military honors for the funeral. So we need to start that planning process now for when we do open up the cemetery. And Richard will talk in a minute about the cemetery, but I wanted to start planting those seeds and then get ready for our capital outlay request to finish off the cemetery. And staff's been working hard And we're also getting ready for the swearing-in ceremony, which will be held on December 30th at 10 a.m. Judge Chavez did confirm this morning that he'll be available to do the swearing in. And so we're getting those preparations. And then on December 22nd, we're having our holiday luncheon in the commission chambers. We're trying to get sponsors for that event. And so those are a little bit of what we're working on and just getting ready for January as well. So I stand for questions at this time.
Any questions? Yes, Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Jaramillo, for the update. Just two quick things about the Planning Commission. One, could you let us know remind us, because it's gone out of my head, the deadline for people to apply for the Planning Commission? And the second part of the question is, do our current planning commissioners need to reapply?
Yes, the current planning commissioners need to reapply. One of the current planning commissioners has reapplied. And we have not got anybody for the Board of Adjustment either. As of last week, we haven't received nobody for that as well. And usually that's a 3-member board.
So December 6th, Mr. Jaramillo, that is the deadline date?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Well,
So what do we do? Okay, that's right, I didn't even realize.
so, no, I know me and Rachel were hoping to get some more applicants. I know of one other gentleman that's in District 1 that's intending to submit a letter of interest, and he asked me about it and Thursday, Friday, and I don't know if he submitted at this time.
Okay, so if we don't receive many letters of interest, do we extend? Is that the plan?
Yeah, that's the plan. This is where I made the comment to Rachel and in something that Mr. Trujillo's online, that we do need to fix this section in the LUR because it doesn't address vacancies. It doesn't address extensions in this case, if there's nobody to apply, logically, I think the existing planning commission would need to remain in place until a new planning commission is seated. But our land use regulations don't provide any guidance in this section. So we do need to address this particular section as soon as possible. And that way, the example of the vacancies, like in District 4, we would have a mechanism to address that. Even though there is a mechanism by pulling somebody from the Board of Adjustment, and that did happen last month, but we need that mechanism in place.
Okay, any other questions, commissioners?
I did fail to put one thing down in my notes. Today is the deadline for the ARP application. And so that deadline is today. Ms. O'Brien will attend the commission meeting of the 20th and give us the data on the number of applicants. So Ms. O'Brien will be attending on the 20th. We did discuss if she should come today, we both decided it would be better for her to wait till the 20th and give the commission the data.
Great. Any other questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, on the AARP funding, will this seated commission approve the request or the next commission?
The next commission will review the request, and it's not set up for the commission it'll be a general approval.
And I would just recommend if there's other business that needs to be taken care of in December, that we do have a special meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair?
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, if I might, building on what Commissioner O'Donnell mentioned, if I could just clarify the ARP, the American Rescue Plan, rather than AARP. It won't be the commissioners. There's a committee that will be evaluating the applications and making the decisions and then recommending them to the commission to approve, just so that's clear. You know, I think it's best that we stay out of it so it doesn't become political or weird. So that just like, that's the process, just so the public knows. It's like the committee that has been selected from a diverse swath of the community will review the applications, make the recommendations, and then the commission just, does the thumbs up or thumbs down. Is that fair, Brent?
Yes, thank you for making that crystal clear.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Yes. Okay, anything else? So we can move forward? No? Okay, and I'd like to pause right here and just welcome our mayor. Thank you for being here, Mayor. It's nice to see you. Let's move on to item B, Historic County Courthouse update. We've got Mr. Richard Sanchez, Construction Manager.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, glad to report on the historic courthouse on a couple different fronts. We finally did receive our building permit from New Mexico Construction Industries November 17th. Our contractor and the demolition contractors are full force working on the west side. You can see daylight and you can see doors and windows. Good news on attachment to our neighbor's building. The structure that was there was not, so far has not been attached at all to Reed Weimer's building. I've been in contact with him continually since the beginning of the project, and he's been very cooperative, but just needed to know if we had any structural issues, and everything looks really good. Lori is working on an additional grant, Save America's Treasures. It's a $750,000 grant. We met with our grant writer and facilities last week. We're getting them some more information this week, and hopefully everything will be in place it will be in place by the 20th. Conrad and Woods, our design team, is also working with us to supply additional information for the grant. And if we do get the grant, it'll be awarded in July. Hopefully we'll have the money sometime in the fall, and we'll just keep the project moving forward. We're applying for a $750,000 grant, and that's about where we're at right now.
Great. Thank you, Richard, and thank you for your hard work. I'm glad to see this project move forward, and I think we'll be super happy when it's completely done.
Yes,
Commissioners. Brent, yes, please.
And North Central Economic Development District was very complimentary of the meetings they've had with Richard and gathering the information for the Save America's Treasure grant. And so Richard has provided them a lot of information, and they're very pleased with the data that Richard's provided. And some of that data has been produced by Conrad and Woods, but they're very pleased that we have a lot of documentation that's going to go into the grant agreement.
Thank you. Great. Any questions, Commissioners?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your work. Did you ever resolve the issue of the electrical issues that you brought up at the merchant meeting?
Yes, before we actually even started the demolition, part of the demolition was to figure out where everything was going. It appears the bulk, well, not the bulk, most of the stuff that we had concerns of was just dead wiring that over the years had been added, deleted, not used. The spaghetti mess of telephone and data that was on the rear corner, that was a real big concern. Turns out the bulk of it, CenturyLink, they just stopped servicing those wires and they were just hanging there. So like I said, so far everything's been going real well. The roofing has been taken off of the old jail. Smoke shop is basically completely gone. Like I said, it's daylight in there. Conversations with our contractor, we are going to hopefully, depending on structure, as we get into the front portal, our goal is to save as much of the original vigas and cross beams and possibly just replace the posts on the portal. If we can do that, then we'll just support the portal structure while we do sidewalk demolitions and put in new foundations for the posts. So knock on wood, things are going well and no big surprises so far.
And one more final question, if I may, Madam Chair.
O'Donnell, sure.
It would be nice if you could provide pictures kind of similar to what you're doing with the Veterans Cemetery that could be posted on our social media page too, so the public can see the progress.
I do have pictures and I'll be giving them to Anissa to work on for our next commission meeting and for the public to see on the website.
Thank you.
The only question I have, Richard, is are we on schedule?
It's so early in the project that, yeah, we are on schedule. I would say at the rate they're going right now, it's Tuesday, possibly by the end of this week, no later than the middle of next week, the entirety of the wall and roof structures on the west side will be completely gone. After that, we have some additional demolition in the back of the courthouse. It appears there's an old fuel tank for the heating system sometime back in the 40s, 50s. We're not quite sure where it's at, but there's a bunch of telltale signs. So that'll be the next big step in the demolition, removing that and getting things started getting the infrastructure, the storm drain, the new sewer line in. The one good news on that, speaking with Reed Weimer, we did have concern that we didn't want to undercut his foundation while we were prepping for the elevator and the sewer and whatnot. His building has a full basement, which is good, which means we won't be going down to his foundation. His walls look in really good shape now that we removed a bunch of the structure. They really haven't been degraded at all with the structure or with weather. Stuff that was exposed, there's some brick that aren't structurally an issue, but obvious weathering on it. But
Great,
it's all looking real good.
Yes, Vice Chair.
How many,
Commissioner O'Donnell?
I'm sorry, how many members of Franken are working on this project?
Right now, because everything's so focused right now, we probably have a superintendent and 5 employees, and then we have 4 more demolition subcontractors that they're doing the actual demolition. The bulk of the demolition is all handwork because we don't want to disturb the structure of the courthouse and we don't want to disturb our neighbor's property. So it's a lot of handwork, a lot of sawing, a lot of pry bars and hammers. The only equipment there is a bucket to get the garbage and keep moving it out.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, anything else? Okay. Let's move on to, thank you, Richard. First of all, thank you. And then let's move on to Veteran Cemetery update. Richard?
Veteran Cemetery update. There should be a rendition of the committal shelter that we signed the change order for last commission meeting. He says, okay. And that'll give, because what we have in the plans is strictly architectural single line drawings. So we did request a rendition. There we go. I know. No pressure, no pressure. So what you're seeing is the front of the committal shelter. It's an open air structure, just like the one in Santa Fe. You walk in through there, that's where the service before the burial occurs, whether it's, and the color guard will do their 21 gun, quote, 21 gun salute. That all depends on your ribbons, can be anywhere from a 3-gun salute to a 21 gun salute. But that's the committal shelter. That change order includes all the sidewalks, the landscaping, and the shelter itself. The structural steel for the shelter itself is, in the past, had been anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks in production. With everything that's going on in the world today, I don't know what it's going to be, but it was important that we get that change order and in our contractor's hands so that they can start. They send it out to the fabricator does drawings, the drawings come back to the contractor and the architect and the engineer. They review those drawings, they okay them or make amendments, they send them back to the fabricator, and then the fabricator starts to build the structure. So it's important, if we want to be done by springtime, that we did get this change order and it is moving forward. It has slowed down a little bit on the site because of weather. We don't want to have any settling issues, but the landscapers are still there, putting in water lines, control wires, control conduit. The staking for the committal shelter is in place, so as soon as the weather warms just a little bit more, because in order to compact soils correctly, they have to be moist based on the type of soil they are. The problem with the weather now, if you have moist soil, it freezes. Then you don't get the compaction that you need. So it'll be a very busy and intense spring, but if everything's in place, it shouldn't be an issue. The retaining wall that goes, retaining and landscaping wall that separates the building from and the burial areas from the rest of the property is in place and capped, partially backfilled. They have to do the waterproofing. They'll continue with that kind of stuff. And like I said, the landscapers continue installing water lines because they're doing trenching and control wires, control equipment. Electricity is still somewhat of an issue. We did receive a letter from Kit Carson that transformers could be anywhere from 40 to 80 weeks out. Well, we're at about 70 weeks right now, but that's okay in the sense that, speaking with their field engineers, Amaya Community Center and Amaya Senior Center have 2 transformers. Since we're not using Amaya Senior Center currently, I'm going to have a meeting with the field engineer next week up there. We may steal from Peter to pay Paul, because we do have money to do the repairs, but that's a year down the road. That'll give us the chance to bring that transformer to the Veterans Cemetery and make sure we can power up our irrigation pumps, our well, and then if we get this legislative appropriations, continue with our building for the administration building. Any questions?
I have a question, but I'll go ahead and wait. No, anyone else?
Thank you, Richard. This is moving along quite nicely. I wanted to comment on the November 2nd video. Was fantastic. I finally looked at it on Facebook. It
Great.
just shows what's going on. And has there been a lot of movement since that November 2nd drone video? Are you going to post another one?
Not too much. We have procured the capstones for the columbarium walls or the niche covers, also the memorial wall plaques, and 10 tombstones to start off with. Normally the Veterans Affairs would supply all that, but because we're in the Veterans Affairs system, we're responsible for all the niche covers, which are the covers that go over the cremated the columbarium walls and the memorial wall and some headstones. We are, with what we saved a little bit initially and the equipment grant is, we are a little bit short on the estimated budget, but it is for construction equip. And so that's part of the equipment stuff. So like I said, we're issued a change order. We got a quote, issued a change order to our general contractor so that we get the correct stones that match the rest of the state, and are going to do it as a change order that way to expedite it, and we'll have everything ready when we open up.
So, Madam Chair, Mr. Sanchez, the video showed, though, I take it were the concrete crypts going in the ground, and then they'll be placed appropriately. How many did we get in the?
We placed 102 crypts, and they're all double crypts in the sense that a veteran and the spouse or dependent child can go. So after we backfill them and cover them up, there'll be 22 inches of soil above them, and that's why you can bury fairly easy even in the wintertime. There'll be survey markers in place so that we have the layout, know where the grid lines are of the crypts. And so if somebody passes, you open up an area, you record it in the book, because in the veteran cemeteries, we'll have to have a kiosk so that when people come, you can type in the name and it'll tell you what location's at, whether it's a columbarium wall or a burial field. We'll have 2 crypt fields. Those are what you saw in the videos. And then just to the east will be another 50 spaces laid out in the exact same pattern for indigenous veterans who, if they want to be buried there and they don't use caskets. And then further east, as you rotate around the flag plaza, will be 200 spaces for in-ground cremated remains. And then along that, and then next to the right of the committal shelter will be 200 additional spaces for cremated remains that are above ground. And then we'll have about 100 spaces for veterans that were either lost in action, and those would be memorial spaces, but it'll look just like the cremated remains space.
Okay, what's the square footage for the committal?
I'm sorry?
Square footage for the committal?
Ooh, it's probably right around 500 square feet. They're not very big. It's not very big.
Okay, great. That's all I've got, other than to say thank you very much. I know that as we gear to call our legislators for additional funding, we'll need that number of what it's going to take to complete it entirely. So we'll be talking to you so we can get that, try to nail down that number.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, commissioners? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we will move on to 10D, which is FLAP grant regarding the John Dunn Bridge. And we've got our Deputy County Manager, Jason Silva, to give us an update.
Thank you for allowing me to present, Madam Chair, Vice Chair Brush, Commissioner O'Donnell, Commissioner Fambro. There's some pictures up here that we have to show of, what our current state of our beloved John Dunn Bridge. Unfortunately, due to some setbacks that we've encountered with, like Richard noted a while ago, we have some structural steel that took a while to get to this project. So that was a delay. We had some vandalism, some theft that attributed to this as well. So unfortunately, our community that created havoc down there because they were the closure essentially delayed the project as well. So through this project, what we currently at this point is our delays are around the hydration process of the structural concrete through these cold weather temperatures. So what's happening is they're tented at this point. There's some heat going through there, so the structure, the breaks that are coming through on the 7 and 28-day breaks aren't hitting right where they need to be or optimum to allow them to move forward before this footing is completed and before these concrete girders are being placed on top of this. So we don't want to compromise the bridge at this time. So they've allowed to give the contractor a little more time till these breaks start coming in that's adequate to support that they will move forward with additional concrete work in this area. So as you can see through here, I can send out all the rebar details and any the submittals that are going through here and the delays that have encountered has taken on within this job. But it's a pretty lengthy bridge. This right here is the bridge over the Rio Hondo though. So this isn't the John Dunn itself. This is the bridge that goes over the Rio Hondo, and this was the bridge that at one point had some, it was built in 1920, had a rock foundation, probably good maybe 18 to 24 inch vigas that would go across, and it was a real primitive, but it served its purpose for almost 80 years, and but it was identified as in the last bridge inspection over the last 5 years, a desperate need to be replaced. And right now what we'll see is this temporary setback and this major facelift to this whole beloved area of our recreation and allowing individuals to get back to this backside of this roadside. From here, is a temporary setback, but it's going to serve our community for the years to come. So at this point, the John Dunn Bridge has been totally encapsulated. Otto, can you go to one of those of the bridge itself? So right there, what you see here is there's 3 layers of containment for the lead abatement that is currently happening on this bridge. There's scaffolding that's going from front to back within this one. It's been sandblasted, it has primer on it, and it's getting painted, and any structural steel are being replaced at this time. The next stage of this one is once they finish that's part of has been sandblasted. The next stage is once the primer has been completed, it's dry, the paint will be, it has a new color that the BLM had chosen to set their, it's going to look different than the silver that was on there. I think it's going to be like a brown color, so it's going to look a little different, but that was something that was established from the BLM itself. At this point, the road that you see there is going to have a cold mix on it, so it's going to have an upgrade within that decking as well. Other than that, this project is going on schedule, is on schedule, other than the concrete delays that we're dealing with on the Rio Hondo Bridge. So I stand for any questions at this time.
Commissioners, any questions?
Just a comment, this makes me really proud, Jason, to see this, because we started begging for this grant 7 years ago. And, 110's already done, that was another part of that. And then seeing this makes me really proud of what we had to go through to get people to listen to us on this grant. But I'm very proud of this.
Yeah, for yourself, Commissioner Gallegos, Commissioner Brush, that were here from the inception of this and the advocation that took place with our federal delegation, I greatly appreciate. I know you went out to Washington, so I know that this kind of lies a lot on you as well because you met with everybody out there. So I appreciate that and bringing those funds to our community because they're desperately needed. And those are the type of grants that are in our best interest to go after. Both of these our matching funds are about 15%. So, something that's attainable that we can work on, but it provides that adequate road like C-110 and this project that if we'd have to come out of county coffers, we're probably looking somewhere in the realm of about $9 million between both of those projects. So, and this is kind of part of the issue that comes up with the Build Back America grant. I'm working on those grants to provide a solid submittal for this. The problem that comes with that is it's 100%. We have to have 100%. To get our roads all up standards within county roads, we're looking probably maybe 50 to 75 million. Wow. So, we have to come up with that, and we don't have that at coffers. As you know, we are having a tough time as it is trying to pull off the $11 million project of John Dunn. So, when you get to speak with the federal delegation, express that this Build Back America, when the community views it and sees that there's money out there, essentially it's smoke and mirrors that we really don't have a direct line of attachment to this funding. It makes it a large obstacle for us to go through unless you have, the only one that I've seen it in the state that's making this attainable is Los Alamos. But, the amount of funding that they have their contribution is making that a reality and support within those funds that come to our state. So, however, I request your support on this. When you do speak with Ledger Fernandez, Ben Ray Lujan, and Senator Heinrich, each of those, it makes it difficult for our small rural communities to come up with the matching funds to support these projects. But thank you for what you've done for this because it makes as I came in here 2 years ago, it makes my life easier to foresee this project because a lot of the legwork was already done other than some of the environmental and NEPA studies and Army Corps of Engineers for working within these roadways was the only thing that we really had to take on.
And Mr. Silva, thank you for pointing out how difficult it is to get this money. Often, as you stated very well, the community sees all these funds available, but we just often don't have that match or the capacity. So, you're right. It's going to be very important for us moving forward to speak to our representatives, senators at the national level and and get them to help us. And we'll be doing that. So,
Yes. So,
okay, thank you.
And Madam Chair, as you know, the NPR, TPO wrote a letter regarding this issue, that these policymakers don't understand that we can't really access this money. And it could also be a resolution from the commission, but also in the future NPR, TPO representing the various counties to let the congressional delegation know that, yes, they promoted it, they touted it as a great thing, and we can't access it. So thank you.
yes, appreciate it. There's no further questions. Thank you and have a good day.
We're good? Commissioner, okay, let's move on to a request for approval of actual reimbursement for current and incoming commission, county manager, and probate judge to attend the New Mexico, NMC, BIPO conference December 6th through the 8th, 2022. Mr. Jaramillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You explained it perfectly. We're just actually asking for actual reimbursement for the members indicated in the agenda item. I recommend approval.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the actual reimbursement for the current and incoming commission manager and probate judge to attend the BIPO conference.
I will second that, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and for approval as stated. Call for the vote, please.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Chair Vihil.
Yes. Next, we've got attendees for NMC Legislative Conference, January 17th through 19th, 2023.
Yes, we placed this item on the agenda to see if there's any interest from the two of you, the chair and vice chair, to attend the legislative conference sponsored by New Mexico counties. I'll be speaking with the incoming commission, but for planning purposes, we need to know who's interested so we could budget accordingly. And that's why we placed this item on the agenda.
Certainly interested. Vice
Madam Chair, whoever replaces me as the NMCIA county representative has to be at that meeting 8 o'clock Tuesday morning, and I would encourage them to run for the board seat that I've held for 8 years.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Fambro?
Madam Chair, I want to go. Just kidding. I would really encourage everyone to go and move the commission meetings back if there's a conflict, because you can not only attend the opening day of the legislative session in the gallery and speak with your representatives and senators and all those from the state. And so please, I would encourage you to attend. It's a wonderful experience.
Yes, we haven't had an opportunity, have we, Vice Chair?
And Madam Chair, Mr. Jaramillo, I would be interested as well, although I'll have to head back to Taos the night of the 18th. So the 17th and 18th, I'm definitely interested in being there.
Okay, so moving on.
We'll budget accordingly. It's $300 per person for the registration, and the per diem is $195 per night for the Santa Fe rate. And I'll speak with the incoming commission on seeing who's going to attend the conference.
Okay, so next we've got attendees for the NACO conference, February 11th through 14, 2023. And I myself am interested. Vice Chair?
Madam Chair, I am on the Energy, Environment, and Land Use Steering Committee, which meets that Saturday, the 11th. So I would love to be there and join you.
I encourage you to do this. Half of one of the days is you sitting in a restaurant setting with your federal delegation.
Great.
And that's where they listen to you. When you see them the day before at their offices, there's distractions and you may only be meeting with an aide. On that day, you're meeting with them.
Great.
And you're as close as we are right now to them. And so that's one of the biggest values of that. Do you agree, Brent?
I totally agree. And I think a moment ago when we were talking about John Dunn Bridge, this was a perfect example of Commissioner Fambro and Commissioner Romero advocating for not only the PILTs, but for funding for the flat federal lands Access Program grant. So this was a direct correlation between that advocacy and, as we've spoken about in previous meetings, it's unheard of for a county to receive 2 FLAP grants in the same cycle. So made a little bit of history there. I did put some numbers behind this, and looking at a travel day of February 10th and return travel day of February 15th. Estimated cost of the flight as of last night on Southwest Airline is at $393.45. The cost of the conference is $575. The room cost with an estimated tax is $1,517.34 for a total of $2,485.79. But if you look at that value, like what we're receiving in gross receipts tax from both of those FLAP grants, I don't have that number, but there is the value in going and advocating for Taos County.
And Brent, Madam
Yes,
Chair, if I can.
sure, Commissioner Fambro.
I was told twice by our senators and representatives when we took a presentation to them of what we've used the PILT money for. And they said no one has ever, they just come and say, we need PILT. Make sure we get our PILT money. Make sure we get our PILT money. We went and showed them a 2-year history of what we've done with the PILT money, and it really put a charge in them because they don't see the results. And so I encourage you both to get with Mr. Jaramillo or whoever and get a list of things and show them this is what we do with that PILT money.
And can you tell us what the PILT stands for?
Payment in lieu of taxes.
That's right. Okay, just want everyone to know.
Madam Chair,
$6, what is it? $6.78 an acre or something like that?
Something like that.
For the public, Madam Chair, and thank you for spelling that out, Commissioner Fambro. When you have public lands, federal, BLM, like those lands in your county, obviously we're not getting any tax revenue from that, so we get federal dollars in lieu of tax money.
Thank you.
Good deal.
Right. Great. Okay, thank you. Anything else, Commissioners, so we can move on? Okay, so we are moving on to resolutions and ordinances. Yes, thank you, Brett. 11A, approval of resolution number 2022-67, a resolution supporting the New Mexico County's 2023 legislative priorities. Brent?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As indicated in the packet, there is the legislative priorities that New Mexico Counties wants us to endorse and endorse their priorities by passing this resolution. Most of these Commissioner Fambro has spoken about in the past. The detention reimbursement fund, prisoner transport extradition, the EMS, public safety package on the return to work. That's important to the sheriff's office as well as EMS and detention. Advocating for that recruitment and retention fund is a high priority as well. So I recommend that we adopt this resolution and we forward it over to Joy Esparza, the Executive Director for New Mexico Counties.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I move to approve resolution number 2022-67, supporting the New Mexico County's 2023 legislative priorities.
Is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve as read. Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush?
Yes.
Chair Behill?
Yes.
And Madam Chair, if I may, how many times have we asked the state for the criminal justice issue that they should be paying?
Commissioner Fambro?
We don't have a New Mexico County's board meeting or even New Mexico County's Insurance Authority board meeting that we don't talk about them. But those first 3 items will become a sort of, the best you can with state government, a permanent funding source if it's in House Bill 2.
Great.
So we don't have to fight for it every year. It's there, then you just got to get it funded.
And we've asked every year for them to address that problem.
Okay, next we've got discussion, consideration, and decision regarding resolution number 2022-68, a resolution authorizing and directing publication of a general summary and a time, date, and meeting place on proposed ordinance 2022-5, declaring the communities of Ranchos de Taos, Talpa, Llano Quemado, Los Cordobas, and La Corriera, Taos County, New Mexico, a traditional historic community to be known as Las Comunidades del Valle de los Ranchos. We've got Mr. Rudy Perea, Senior Planner.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Good morning, County Manager, County Attorney, Assistant County Attorney, and Deputy Manager. Commissioners, this resolution is being brought to you again due to an administrative error that occurred in notifying the Taos News. Due to an administrative error, that there was supposed to be a publication in the Taos News on December 1st in order for the ordinance 2022-5 to be heard on December 20th. This resolution is being brought before you again to correct that administrative error. And if you'd like, Madam Chair, Commissioners, I can read the resolution into the record, or if you would prefer, I could just, reference it.
Is it necessary?
It's the same as what we had before that we
Yes,
already voted on.
yes, Madam
so
Chair,
just-
Commissioner Fambro. The only difference now is that this resolution is going to be published in the Santa Fe New Mexican tomorrow on December 7th, 2022. And with the publication of this resolution and the proposed ordinance being published tomorrow in the Santa Fe New Mexican, we will still have the number of days that are required in order for this to be heard on December 20th. So the mistake has been corrected. And I did receive a confirmation from Santa Fe New Mexican yesterday saying that it will be in their legal ad section in their newspaper tomorrow, again on December 7th. So Madam Chair, Commissioners, I stand for any questions at this time.
Any questions, Commissioners? I just have one comment, and that is because Taos News did in fact do a write-up on this. I'm glad that the community, the locals know that this is going to take place. And with that being said, I think we kind of covered that area. And so I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-68, a resolution authorizing and directing publication, the general summary and the time, date, and meeting place of the proposed ordinance 2022-5 as read earlier. Anyone else?
I will second, Madam Chair.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Fambro,
No.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair of the Hill.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, next we've got discussion regarding a resolution supporting the state legislation to establish economy-wide limitations on the emissions of greenhouse gases. Commissioner, Vice Chair Brush and Samantha, is it Cow, thank you. Sorry about that. Climate and Energy Advocate, Conservation Voters, New Mexico.
And Madam Chair and Samantha, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us today. Just a little bit of background. Ms. Cow contacted me in the middle of last month talking about our potential support for state legislation in response to the ongoing and increasing climate crisis. So the resolution before us for discussion today and then potentially for vote at our next meeting, December 20th, is talking about our state's goals, our governor's goals, legislative moves that we could voice our support for in order to help address the climate crisis. So Ms. Cow has graciously agreed to be here this morning to address any questions that we might have about the draft ordinance in front of us in our packet today. And if you would like to add anything, please.
Oh, I had a quick thing prepared, but it was mostly reiterating what was already in the draft, so I can go forward, or if you guys have already read it, it's
Please
really
do.
up to you. Okay.
Please do.
Thank you, Commissioner and Madam Chair. My name is Sammy Cow. I'm the Climate Energy Advocate with CBNM, and the resolution is being brought forward to you in efforts to gain local and county support for the climate legislation that will be brought forth in the 2023 session. So in this session, we will be introducing the Climate Action Act, and the bill will have two major components. The first being a climate regulatory scheme, which will establish greenhouse gas emission targets for 2030 and 2050, which was the 2030 target is 50% reduction of 2005 levels, and the 2050 target is 90% of 2005 levels. And the second component is a just transition provision to support communities that are dependent on the oil and gas industry, particularly in the Permian Basin and the Four Corners region of the state. The just transition portion will be to create a just transition office and a trust fund to support these families in the form of education apprenticeship opportunities in the clean energy sector, and also provide them funds to support them as we move away from the oil and gas industry. So in the form of unemployment benefits, health insurance benefits, and any kind of income support that they might need as the jobs from the oil industry move towards a clean energy industry. The resolution outlines the work that has been laid out by the U.S. federal government as well as our state government. So earlier this year, the Biden administration passed the Inflation Reduction Act that created historic investment in clean energy, and also outlined Justice 40 initiatives, which carves out 40% of all those investments to be dedicated for environmental justice and frontline communities. And in 2019, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham signed her climate executive order, which said that she wants to boldly and aggressively address the climate crisis. In support and in response to her climate executive order, the Energy Transition Act was passed in 2019, and the Community Solar Act was later passed in 2021, and both of those are currently under implementation at the Public Regulation Commission. We have also since adopted several rules at the Environmental Improvement Board to adopt methane pollution and to adopt clean car standards. So the next step is to pass sector-wide greenhouse gas emission targets, and the support of the Taos County Commission as well as other county commissions throughout the state will build the local support and build political will around the state to push this climate bill to the finish line. Thank you, and I stand for any questions.
Great, thank you for the presentation there, the information. Anyone have any questions, commissioners? Okay, great, thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
You know, the state of California passed a resolution or a law, no more gas stoves in beginning, 2024, 2025. I would ask you to consider, it would probably never pass, but to get that conversation going with the state, and that the state look at California's model for that law, and that we begin that process of eventually banning gas stoves. I know it's controversial, but California's doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, commissioners?
No, Madam Chair. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you for the outreach and for being here. Thank you.
God.
Okay, so now we are at 12B, a presentation on the impact of juvenile detention facilities on courts' ability to hear juvenile delinquency cases. And our Honorable Judge Jeffrey Shannon. Good morning.
Just want to talk to you briefly about what's going on. The Supreme Court and the legislature frown upon detaining children unless absolutely necessary. And so we have a somewhat brand new detention center in Taos for juveniles, but since it was seldom used, it was closed because of finances. You have to staff it 24/7. And so we had a facility in Taos that was staffed 24/7, quite often with no kids for weeks at a time. So in that sense, it made sense to close the facility. It was underutilized. At the time it was closed, to my knowledge, Santa Fe was available for detaining children. Albuquerque was available. And those were the two main places where kids were being detained at the time the detention facility was closed in Taos County. Since then, Santa Fe no longer accepts juveniles from out of county. Albuquerque, Bernalillo County accepts children on a space available basis. So the fact is, most of the juveniles who've been detained in the district since I've been a district judge have been detained either in Bernalillo County, space available, or in San Juan County and Farmington. So it's 2.5 hour one-way trip from Albuquerque, assuming the transport does the speed limit. 4.5 hour one-way trip to Farmington, 9-hour round trip. I have juveniles in detention who have jury trials coming up. That's a problem because I'm going to be transporting a child 2.5 hours prior to his trial and then sending him back to his detention facility for a 2.5 hour drive after that day's proceedings. That's 5 hours on the road for the kid each day he's in trial. That's problematic, assuming space available in Bernalillo County. I had a trial setting recently, a few weeks ago, with a juvenile. We had to continue the trial because we were unable to bring the child to court and back to detention because the child was in Farmington. And I have no place else to put the child. I have a child being detained in Colorado under pretty serious charges, cannot be released. I have no place to put him where we can have a jury trial. So I just wanted the commissioners to be aware of the logistic hurdle that we're having, not only in Taos, but it's a statewide problem. I've been advised by other judges and others. It's, for example, I had a warrant for a child living in Roswell, picked up on the warrant, and the Roswell police didn't want to take the child to a detention facility, the nearest one being Albuquerque. So they just gave the kid to a social worker at CYFD, and the kid ran away again, and they had to issue another warrant. So it's a statewide problem. But for me to have a juvenile tried, I have to have a juvenile detained closer than Farmington. I mean, a one-way trip to Lubbock, Texas is a shorter trip than a round trip to Farmington, to give you some perspective. And there's no way I can have a child picked up at 2 a.m., brought to my court to be here for trial at 8, and then after a 5 o'clock conclusion, transported back to Farmington and getting there sometime after 10 or 11. But that's the logistics that we're facing right now. And the county's in a tough spot because we still don't have that many kids to be detained to man 24/7 a juvenile facility that have it fully staffed. Now, there are some exceptions, but they don't really help. And I'm looking at the Children's Code for detention facilities. First, it says placement or detention. A child alleged to be a delinquent child may be placed or detained pending a court hearing in any of the following places. A licensed foster home, not going to be an option. A licensed child welfare services agency, not a facility there. But number 4 is a detention facility certified by the department for children alleged to be delinquent children. A juvenile jail. I can put a kid in the adult jail for 6 hours. And for those 6 hours, he has to be isolated from all noise or anything else coming from the adult side of the facility. We can't do that here at our jail. We have people in booking who are in isolation either for COVID protocols or because they're dangerous or for mental health observations. So even our adult facility probably doesn't have the means to hold a child for the 6 hour period. So all I'm here to do today is dump this in your lap and just let you know it's a problem. We recently had some children in detention for suspected homicide, killing a woman and seriously wounding her 19-year-old son. Now, those cases have since been dismissed by the state and children have been released on those charges, but they were all being detained in San Juan County. So my guess is it's a legislative fix. It's a statewide problem. My preference would be that the department would have regional detention facilities under state management, under state control, with trained professionals trained to deal with children and their problems. But it's not what we have now, and it's wishful thinking. It's a wish list. Maybe down the road the legislature will take that up. But right now I have a problem that I had to continue a trial because I couldn't get the child to court and back in time for his trial without him having to spend 5 or more hours on the road each day of the trial, a trial that likely would have taken more than 1 day, but it would have been a jury trial. So that's all I have to say. It's a problem, and the decision to close the juvenile facility was made with good cause. There just weren't enough kids to justify keeping it open. But I've since been advised that it's been used for spare parts for the jail, so the likelihood of it being reopened is slim to none. But I'll let you discuss that with the appropriate authorities, with Lieutenant Montoya or the warden over at the jail may have a better sense. But it's a problem. I'm going to need a solution. I'm going to need some means of detaining a child where he can be transported timely to court and back without him having to be on the road at a minimum of 5 hours, but up to, what is a round trip to Farmington? A 10-hour drive, 9-hour drive? But that's what I'm looking at right now for the child who's having a trial. And that's not fair to the child. It's not due process to the child. And the children who were set for trial are still presumed innocent. So I'll take any questions you
Yes,
may have.
Judge Shannon, thank you for bringing awareness to this issue. Do you have data that would help us as we go forward in this conversation as to the need here in Taos? How many juvenile are we processing or having to move?
I don't have data specific. I do have, I think, 2 children currently being detained on different matters, one in Colorado, and who would have otherwise been released here, but picked up charges in Colorado, which involves stealing a fire truck and setting a bomb or something, other allegations like that. So he can't be released and he's brought back to Taos for adjudication. The state may wish to dismiss that case. I don't know. And I have another child who's been in detention, but he's been on the Taos News. A 14-year-old who's been on the Taos News many times as a runaway and is also was a suspect in the homicide of the woman and wounding of her son. So in terms of the number of kids we have detained, you're probably going to get that information from Brent, the county manager, because he's the one paying for that detention. So he'll have access to the actual number of days kids have been detained and how much it's costing and where they're being detained at and for how long. I don't have those numbers, but they may refile on 3 children for a homicide case. And if they do, they're likely going to be having jury trials down the road. And if they're treated as youthful offenders, it may increase the options, but you know, it's a problem. It's a statewide problem. It's going to need a statewide fix. But for the purposes of a case-by-case basis, I may need some action from the commission or from somebody so that I can have a child detained, even if I would have a trial for a child detained in Albuquerque. I would live with the 5-hour round trip, but I cannot have a trial with a child detained in Farmington. So it may be a matter of just begging Bernal Leo to house a kid who would otherwise be in Farmington during the period that he's having his trial. I don't know, but it is problematic. And how long is, commissioners, you may know how long the facility's been closed, but about 5 or 6 years?
It is, I want to say 5 years.
Back when I was in magistrate court before I was handling juvenile matters. But I've not had any really serious, gravely serious juvenile cases that would have put a child in detention and mandated that they be detained until recently. So it hasn't really come up the first 3 years of my experience as a district judge. Mm-hmm. But it's coming up now, and the real problem, the real kick has been Santa Fe no longer accepting out-of-county children, which was Santa Fe an hour-and-a-half drive there and back, no problem. And that was, so when the decision was made, it was made when Santa Fe was available, but it's no longer there. So it's really coming back to bite us. And so I just want the county to be aware of that, the commissioners to be aware of that, and then to see what can be done. Any other questions?
Yes, Commissioner Fambro.
Thank you, Judge. There's a memorial that was passed in the last legislative session that will be followed up with through the New Mexico County's legislative priorities this year. And that's to get the state to fix the detention system as a whole. Regionalize or something, but our biggest liability is that building right over there. And it's just going to take one mental health claim or a civil rights violation, we're only insured to a certain dollar amount, and they're settling them for 5 times that. That comes out of our general fund. This commission is going, the future commission is going to be faced with the decision of even keeping that building open.
You're referring to the jail?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're clear. Yeah.
Not you.
Well, I agree with the approach of having a statewide let CYFD handle detaining kids who are alleged to be delinquent. CYFD only takes custody once they've been adjudicated delinquent. Right. But I think that's the best approach because Taos is a small county, but Taos is a lot better off than a lot of other counties would be who've historically for decades been contracting out juvenile detention. And Taos would make a great location perhaps for one of the regional facilities.
I'll get you more information on that. I have a meeting on the 14th, and after that, I'll bring you some more information.
And if you'll discuss the real world problem that we're having in Taos, because it's not been a problem until jury trials have been rearing their head. And I'm loath to continue a case and keep a kid detained elsewhere because of the geography of his detention. So I just wanted you to be aware. I think your numbers you can get from Brent or somebody in his office can let you know how long the kids have been detained, how much is being spent. I don't have that. But any other questions?
No, thank you.
I do.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Judge. This is a problem, and I know there's people in the room that would like to see this solved, and the legislature has failed us, and so has CYFD. In this particular case, so has the governor, because this is an issue that has been ongoing for decades. So I have these radical ideas of an emergency order, if that is legally possible, that we can house up to, I would guess, in that a year we might see 6 juveniles. I'm just guessing. It's probably no more than a dozen. But we create our own emergency order that we're going to use the one side of the jail as a holding facility for juveniles. Notify the state. We don't tired of trying to get their permission. And then let's send CYFD the bill.
Well,
I mean, I'm just saying this, I know this may not be a solution, but when you have such emergency situations, can we do an emergency order?
No, I'll tell you, I don't believe so, and I'll explain why. 32A-2-4, detention facilities, standards, reports, appeals. A, the department, meaning CYFD, shall promulgate updated standards for all detention facilities, including standards for the site, design, construction, equipment, et cetera, personnel, clinical services. The department shall certify as approved all detention facilities in the state meeting the standards. So for a juvenile facility, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to work with the department, get it approved. And the language is also pretty clear. The department shall inspect all detention facilities at least once each 12 months. The department shall promulgate rules establishing procedures. I'm going to pull up here 32A-2-4.1. Adult jails and lockups used as temporary holding facilities. A child arrested and detained for an alleged delinquent act may be temporarily held in an adult jail or lockup for no longer than 6 hours. That's anticipated at the beginning of the case, not waiting for trial. A child who is detained in an adult jail or lockup shall be placed in a setting that is physically separated by sight and sound. And the sound is a problem because of the echoes in that place just go on and on. It's like one big concrete echo chamber. From adult offenders. After 6 hours, the child may be placed or detained pursuant to the provisions of section 32A-2-12, which is put him in a juvenile facility. So even putting a kid in the adult jail, it could be for 6 hours, has to be isolated. And if you're going to create the jail or part of the jail as a juvenile facility, it's going to have to meet CYFD standards. And so it's going to be an involved process, which is almost as saying, just might as well reopen the place up. But it's a pretty complicated process. And if you do that, you're taking away half the jail space that we have, which can be problematic. I think we have about 50, give or take, in right now, which is kind of low, but we've been getting up to 70 or 80 at some points. So as a long-term solution, it might be, but the department's going to have to be involved, and it's going to affect the ability to lock up adults.
Yes, Vice Chair. Madam
So
Chair.
this will continue, this issue will continue for years,
Probably,
is
yeah.
what I hear you saying. Are you allowed to lobby? Are you allowed to create legislation to change this?
No, I have to go through the Supreme Court to get permission to lobby. And I'm pretty busy as it is. I know the department, I know the county is working on it. That's been an issue for many counties, including Taos, and that there has been a push to try to get a change. But I'm also been advised that nothing's in the upcoming session is planned to resolve these issues, which means the county is going to have to be dealing with this. I think a short-term solution would be to get an exception from Santa Fe or from Albuquerque to guarantee placement for kids who are in trial. So if it's the 2 months leading up to trial, well, actually, when a kid's in detention, I have 30 days to get them to trial, but usually we get extensions because 30 days is really quick for a trial, for a jury trial. But when the kid's ready for trial, for me, the solution for the short term is going to be get Santa Fe or Albuquerque to agree to hold the kid during the trial period to limit the transport time. But the other options are Las Cruces, Lee County, or Farmington and Albuquerque. And Albuquerque is the only viable option we have
Yes,
with those distances.
Thank you, Judge, for making this problem, bringing it to our attention and making it clear, because obviously there's some fixes that are needed in the near term. While we all work together, state, us, you, our detention center, who, by the way, I think did use the old juvenile side for COVID isolation during the peak of the pandemic, not just for storage. Yeah.
I heard that.
In the short term, in the near term, to address the problems that you're seeing right now, like with the young person in Colorado, for example, is it, I know it's not ideal, but is it at least an option to do online versions? I know some trials throughout the country, because then perhaps we could send a defender, an adult, to Farmington, have them do the drive, have them stay in a regular old hotel and sit there with their client for the trial online. I know it's not ideal, but as a short-term fix.
It would not work, and the reason is constitutional. The first, our statutes are clear. The child has the same rights as an adult unless the law says otherwise. So that's part one. All people accused of crimes, be they delinquent acts as juveniles or crimes as adults, have the right to confront the witnesses that testify against them. That means you get to face them in court, and that's a right the child has. It's so profound a right that our state Supreme Court was overruled about 12 years ago by the U.S. Supreme Court on the issue of confrontation, a case called State v. Bullcoming. And our Supreme Court took the easy way out, and the U.S. Supreme Court says, So and confrontation has become an even more critical issue in the last 2 decades, a case out of Washington called Crawford. And ever since the Crawford decision, which was made by Justice Scalia, confrontation, all these hearsay exceptions we used to have no longer apply. And it really changed the scene of trials. And so a child has a right to appear in court and look the person who's testifying against them in the eye when they testify. And so even though I was doing everything remotely when the pandemic hit, we postponed our jury trials. They were put on hold by our Supreme Court because jury trials cannot be done remotely. And our Supreme Court had to make a special order, no jury trials. And then when they did have jury trials, they have to be in person. So that's a real part of the issue here, that it hamstrings me. But so I see the solution as begging and pleading Bernalillo and Santa Fe to make an exception for kids who are in the middle or beginning their trials, to give them some geographic proximity to Taos, as opposed to being in Lee County, Las Cruces, and Farmington are only other 3 options. They all suck. Bernalillo is not my favorite, but it's a 2.5-hour drive is bearable, I think, for purposes of a trial. And that's a 2.5-hour drive one way. So it's 5 hours on the road each day for the kid.
Thank you for that explanation. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll speak to the Santa Fe County manager on the 13th about this.
If you could, and let Erica Meadows know regarding your conversations. She's our juvenile probation parole supervisor here in Taos. Erica Meadows, Erica with a K. And then let Brent know, but that's what we're probably going to need, something like that. But it's a short-term fix, and I know that there's a push amongst the different counties across the state for a long-term statewide solution. But I've also been advised that it's not going to happen this year. It's not on the agenda before the legislature. And so it's, but this is the sort of problem we're going to have here. Elsewhere in the state, they're going to have the same problem. But we are so far away from our 3 non-Albuquerque options. And Albuquerque has not been available for most of my kids the last few months.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I don't believe so. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time and your work. Have a lovely day.
You too.
Thank you. Is that?
Go Cubs.
Yeah. I'm not going to hold my breath. Take care, guys.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for a 5-minute break.
I will second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for a 5-minute break. Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Fambro,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Vihil.
Yes, thank you.
Motion to come back into regular session?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Commissioner Fambro,
Yes.
Commissioner Brush,
Yes.
Vice Chair Vihil,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Commissioner
Say
O'Donnell?
yes. Say yes.
Okay, great.
For the record,
Call-
that's the first time she's ever listened to me in our 8 years.
Okay, great. So now we're going to move on to public hearing, a public hearing for an appeal from the Taos County Planning Commission that the Planning Department request be placed on the December 6, 2022 commission meeting. And we're going to go ahead and get started with the appellant. And we've got with us Mr. Abeta. And he will,
Good morning.
thank you. I'll let you go ahead, please.
Do you swear under oath and penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give is true and factual?
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Alex Abeta. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, audience. This appeal of the Rolling Steel Distillery Summit Self-Storage Project, in my eyes, is a friendly appeal. The Planning Commission gave us an approval with 21 conditions. Condition 21 was based on concerns from neighbors and safety that we take Eloy Gonzalez Road, which is currently at a skew at an angle to US 64, and hook it in as a 90-degree angle, which no doubt improves the safety of that connection point. So as we went back and evaluated that condition 21, to get a 90-degree into US 64, we had like 3 options we looked at. One was to attempt to buy right-of-way from Appleseed on a little point triangle that's north of the property and go through there. And working with Jacob Caldwell, the legal counsel for Appleseed, he indicated there are many layers to get to the upper management of Appleseed, and that if we prevailed at buying the right-of-way, it could take a year or 2 to get that perfected, which we don't have. The other option we looked at was to take and right at the end of Gonzalez onto 64, hook it in as close to 90-degree as we could. And we did a drawing on that. And the problem with that is the radiuses for the turning radiuses, one was 15 feet, one was 20. The DOT standard is a minimum of 25 feet. And all that means is that a 15-foot radius, if we had an emergency vehicle coming from the north, it would not be able to turn in with a raised curb and gutter at a 15-foot radius. So the third option we looked at was to hook Eloy Gonzalez Road into the client's property, and then do as I'm leaving south on Eloy Gonzalez, do a right into the property, and then do a quick curve to the left back to 64. That would take away several thousand square feet of storage unit project. It would require getting an approval from the acequia to realign it completely. I met with Tele Gonzalez on the acequia concern, and His concern was, can we make the grade work of the acequia? We didn't shoot shots, but based on a site visit, it appears we could make it work, but he did not want to see the acequia piped other than where the turnout is. So I left a drawing with him on how we propose to do that, and I did not hear back from him or his commission on any approval. So basically, whether we built that option 3, the option 2, or the option 1, any of those options would be 30 to 40,000 to build. It adds a significant cost to the project. So because of that, we then went back to DOT and talked to Javier Martinez about the access. Meanwhile, we had submitted, when we got our planning commission approval, we had submitted the application to DOT to take the distillery and office traffic out through near the metal building to the Highway 64. Javier approved that, which I'll talk about that in a little bit. But then in talking to Javier about, is there anything else we can do to make this work? He goes, well, I know that at the beginning when you guys had a pre-application meeting on the phone and the computer with me, I said, well, it'd be best to take the distillery and the office traffic out through US 64, I guess I'd call it south of the Speedway, and then take the storage units to Eloy Gonzalez. I was just thinking that if we split the traffic both ways, it would be better. So let's see. So he pulled out his trip generation book for storage units and said, you know what? Based on 30,000 square feet of storage unit, your traffic from the storage unit is very low. I can allow you to put all the traffic through the approved access permit that I've issued. Obviously, we would need to revise it. He goes, I would want to see a survey showing a new easement from the approved turnout through the rolling steel property into the Summit property. And with that revised survey and deed showing the easement, I can issue a revised permit. So my client has agreed to do that condition on where we get today. We would basically ask DOT for a revised application approval to run all our traffic in and out of the primary access south of Speedway. The access through Eloy Gonzalez Road would become an emergency access only. So what I'd like to do next is take a few minutes and run you through all the sections of the entire packet, because this is a de novo hearing and I want to make sure that you all are up to speed with all the different items that went into this application. Is that okay, Madam Chair?
Sure, Commissioner.
So in the application book on tab 1 is our original submittal letter of June 6, 2022. We've got in the middle of tab 1 an aerial photo that shows, it's a photo that was prepared by the planning department that shows the addresses that were issued for the project. It shows the speedway that exists on a rectangular piece of land. And around the north, south, and west sides, it shows 3 parcels of property. All of these properties many years ago were owned by the Perovich family, Joey and his family. Since then, they sold the entire project. Speedway came through a special use permit. They built their project. And what's left are 3 parcels. The southern one that has the old Exxon gas station store is 0.315 acres. The western one is 2.26 acres, and the northern one is 0.5 something acres. Total of 3.15 acres. So my client has the property under contract to purchase. I just received this morning an extension on that contract to purchase. It takes it through April 1st of 2023. My clients are in the audience, and I've got Dan and Mike here that are 2 of the clients. We also have Liza Barrett, Scott Barrety, and Nicole Barrety. So there's basically 5 developers wanting to do this project. Within tab 1, of course, is our floodplain clearance, our address issued, our will serve letters from utility companies, the warranty deeds, and then there's the August 23rd letter from Mr. Rudy Perea, where he issues the approval to move forward to public hearing with the Planning Commission. Tab 2 is the actual application. This is a special use permit, commercial use, and while we are proposing the 5,000 square foot metal building that's there to be converted into a distillery, the 800 square foot office that's there to be converted to an office either for the distillery or other office. And then on the 2.26 and the 0.5 acres north of there, we would construct 30,000 square feet of new metal storage building, for which I'll show you some elevations in a while. The application is for less than 5 acres. Obviously, it's 3.15, so it's a regular special use permit, commercial use that normally gets approved at the Planning Commission level and ends there unless there's an appeal. Tab 3 is a color photo showing that the property is not in any flood zone. It's in a flood zone deed, which means there's no flooding potential. Tab 4 is the purchase agreement with several addendums. And then I did bring today the amended addendum that extends the purchase agreement to April 1st. And I'm going to hand this in for the record of Mr. Rudy Perea. Tab 5 are the warranty deeds to the property, and there's a fold-out survey prepared by Rio Grande Survey, and basically the 3 lots combined is 3.15 acres. Tab 6 is a letter from the El Pueblito UMC, the Methodist Church. It's across the state highway. They issued a letter of support. Tab 7 is the approval from the acequia to allow the extension of the existing turnout cover on Eloy Gonzalez. And what we're doing there is basically removing the old cover and putting one that's a little bit longer. That stands approved. Tab 7 also includes a will serve letter from Waste Management. It includes the geologic letter from Abate Engineering. It includes a landscape plan. Tab 8 is a letter from Caldwell Law, Jake Caldwell, wherein he issues a legal opinion that this project has the ability to use Eloy Gonzalez as ingress-egress. And as I said earlier, we're now only going to use that in the event of an emergency. Tab 9 is a letter from Taos Pueblo. As you all know, the reach of US 64, Highway 68 from McDonald's north is all in the original Taos Pueblo grant. So anytime we do an application for utility or highway access permit, the environmental section of DOT requires us to get a sign off from Taos Pueblo. So tab 9 is Taos Pueblo's approval of the environmental clearance so that we could get our DOT access permit. Tab 10 was the phase 1, phase 2 environmental clearance of the property. As you all know, there was a gasoline station there previously with the Perovich family. All their storage tanks were above ground rather than underground. They had a big concrete vault that the tanks all sat in. Those were all removed properly through NMED. And this tab 10 environmental clearance basically concludes that everything was done properly. This was reviewed by Taos Pueblo staff before they issued their letter of approval. Tab 11 is the fire plan that was approved by the Taos Fire Marshal, Eric Ovey. And that was the plan approved on June 3rd for the original project, which had access from both Gonzalez and the Highway 64. The next sheet in tab 11 is the fire plan site plan that was signed off on by Eric on June 3rd. Tab 12, there's various photos in color of the site. The metal building is currently being used by transients. They've kicked the front door in and they camp out in the metal building in the winter. In the summer, they camp out on the open land with tents. So currently, the 3.15 acre site is it's in bad shape. This project would clean all that up, secure the fencing around the perimeter, and maintain the property so as to not have that problem there. Tab 13 are all the civil plans for the project. If you go to civil plan sheet C4, that is the site plan showing the existing metal building, the existing office building on the far right, the canopy for the gas pumps have been removed. So all that's there is the metal storage building and the office. On the left of that drawing in a dark gray are the proposed storage unit projects, 30,000 square feet. So basically this project develops the entire 3.15 acres around the perimeter of the Speedway gas station. Tab 14 are the architectural drawings for the storage buildings. And if I can have you go to sheet A-1.5, those are the elevations of the storage buildings. The tallest section of the taller building is 15 feet 2 inches. The code allows a maximum of 27. The sheet A-1.0 gives you a floor plan rendering of the units, and it gives you up on top kind of a bird eye view rendering of the elevations at an angle. Tab 15 includes a color aerial photo prepared by the assessor's office, showing all property owners that own property within 1,000 feet of the boundary of the 3.15 acres. Behind the aerial photo is the list of all the owners that were sent letters for this appeal hearing. There's 82 property owners that were mailed letters. Going back to the front of this application book, what's in front of tab 1 is the appeal and the backup data that goes with the appeal. I've already talked about that, but there's a letter dated October 24th, 2022. That is the appeal itself. We are asking the commissioners to consider dropping condition 21, which is the condition that requires us to hook Eloy Gonzalez into US 64 at a 90 degree. Now that Eloy Gonzalez will strictly be used for emergency access only, there will not be any daily traffic or construction traffic through that. It'll all be through the other access. There's also in this section the recorded decision of the Planning Commission that was recorded on September 22nd. Behind the decision of the Planning Commission is the approved DOT access permit dated September 29th that approved the primary access to be used for the distillery and the office only. So this is the application that we got to resubmit, and DOT would revise it and issue that the storage units would also, the traffic from the storage units would also come out through this location. And obviously we can't do that till we have a recorded easement. We can't do that till the client purchases the property. So as a condition of approval, we are asking the commissioners to consider dropping condition 21 and adding the condition that we will get an updated DOT permit that includes running all the traffic through the primary axis. Behind the DOT permit is civil sheet C4, and you'll see that that was signed off on by Eric Ovey on November 14th of this last month. Ahead of that was the fire plan signed off on November 14th by Eric. And what I want to show you in the narrative fire plan, on the third paragraph, we talk about, on the last sentence of the third paragraph, we talk about that the gate on Eloy Gonzalez Road will have a KNOX gate switch installed, and that'll allow the fire department access. I don't know a lot about the KNOX gate switch. Perhaps Commissioner Fambro can elaborate on that.
Madam Chair, it's a box where a key, a physical key to, or digital, there's two different versions, is in there, and the fire department is the only person that has the key that activates or opens the box.
So as part of this fire plan, we've approved to purchase and install that, and the fire department would be the only ones that have access through there. And that confirms to any neighbors along Eloy Gonzalez Road that after the project is built, we're not going to start sneaking in and out through there for tenants of the storage units. We're strictly going to use the other access. Behind the civil sheet 4 are 3 plan renderings of how we looked at rerouting Eloy Gonzalez. And the first one requires 1,375 feet of right-of-way. As I said earlier, we'd have to acquire that from Appleseed, part of the Lower Foundation. That timeline could take a year or more. There's also a 3-phase power line with a pole inside that triangle that would have to be relocated. So for reasons of cost and timeline, we don't view that as a viable option. The second option drawing that's in your packet, actually that's called option 3. That is to reroute Eloy Gonzalez into the subject property and then hook it back into the state highway with 25-foot radiuses. That one takes away several thousand square feet of building. It has to reroute the existing acequia, for which we have no approval. So that option is not a good option. The option 2 was to take the existing Eloy Gonzalez and hook it into 64 as close to 90 degree as possible. And you'll see that the inside left radius is 15 feet. The right side radius is 20 feet. To make users of Eloy Gonzalez use that, we'd have to build stand-up curb. And those curbs, those radiuses of 15 and 20 do not meet the DOT requirement.
Madam Chair, could you point me to what you're referring to, where I find that?
So I'm within tab 1, basically near the back of the tab 1 is a sheet, 11 by 17 fold out. Yeah. There's 3 of them. It's the third one that I'm talking about now. It's near the back of tab 1.
Yes.
So it's the sheet that has a radius of 15 feet on the left and a radius of 20 feet on the right. That does not work. So in order to rehook Eloy Gonzalez into 64, we would need to do an NMDOT permit, and Javier would reject it based on those radiuses. So that option does not even work, option 2, no? So based on all that, what we're saying is that we want the commission to consider upholding our approval by the Planning Commission and dropping condition 21. Mm-hmm. I do want to go on and say is that in looking at Bing Maps this morning, there's 6 roads in that reach of US 64 from Orlando's up to the project. 5 of the 6 roads have the same skewed angle as does Eloy Gonzalez. The only road that at some point they planned out and got the right of way that hooked in at 90 is Cisneros Road. but we've got Eloy Gonzalez, Fresques Road, Don Bernabe Garcia Road, Don Juan Valdez Road, and Cardenas Lane that are all at an angle. So leaving Eloy Gonzalez at the current angle, while it's not the safest from a design standard, the citizens have gotten used to pulling up and finding their gap to jump northbound or southbound. I believe that concludes my presentation. I'm open to any questions from the commissioners or from anyone else.
So commissioners, I'd like to go ahead and follow the outline here, and next would be members of the public to speak, and then at a later time, we can ask questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it is a public meeting, and so if anyone here present would like to speak, please come forward in regards to either in support or in opposition. Okay, I see none.
Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm not sure the protocol to be able to speak.
Yes, hold on for 1 second. So now that we don't have anyone present that would like to speak, let's go on to those that are virtually. And Amanda, it appears that you want to speak. Is that correct?
Hi, yes, thank you.
Okay, we need to get you sworn in before we move forward. So Amanda, our clerk will go ahead and proceed with swearing you in.
Amanda, do you swear and affirm under oath and penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give is true and factual?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Please state your full name for the record.
Amanda Mayor Dean.
Okay, Amanda, you may proceed.
I live along Fresques Road, which is the...
My apologies, Amanda. I'm going to pause you because I failed to tell you you've got 3 minutes, and Commissioner Fambro, will you get started on that? Okay, so 3 minutes.
Okay.
Go ahead and speak. Thank you.
Thank you. I live along Fresques Road, which is the entire backside of the storage unit area. And I had spoke at the last meeting just expressing some concerns about the storage units. We definitely support Dan and Scott and their families in the distillery endeavor. We're not super excited about having storage units basically 20 feet from my front door, it feels like. I'm not sure, I haven't measured it. So, but I just wanted to say that that we do support Dan and Scott and their endeavor in this, and that we appreciate Dan's reaching out to us, to our neighborhood, and being a good neighbor in that way, and that we would like for for him to continue to be a good neighbor and make sure that his setback off of Fresques Road is good, and that there's like shrubbery inside the property to provide sound and light barriers to the neighborhood, and that we are interested in continuing the relationship with Dan and Scott, and I just wanted to reach out and say that we are in support of them. So thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Anyone else online that would like to speak? Would you please unmute yourself so we can identify you? Vice Chair, do you see anyone or any other commissioners? Okay. I see no one else that would like to speak, so let's go ahead, and I believe we need to close the public meeting. Is that correct? And for the record, the public hearing, excuse me, public comment. And it is 11:32. Thank you for the wording. Next, we've got our planning department, who will go ahead and make their presentation. And with us is Mr. Rudy Perea, Senior Planner.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners, once again. Yes, based on the documentation that the appellants have submitted to our department, planning staff is comfortable with the idea of the appellants wanting to remove condition number 21, as was recorded in the Taos County Planning Commission's record of decision. And I'm comfortable with that for a couple of reasons. First one is that they got the buy-in from the fire department. And number two, I'll make a condition of approval, if you concur with me, that they do get an updated access permit from the Department of Transportation to allow for access off of Paseo del Pueblo Norte, which is US Highway 64. If they can get that updated access permit for full access to both commercial properties, again, I would be comfortable with the idea of the appellant's request to remove condition number 21 from the record of decision. And then also, Madam Chair, Commissioners, I fully support this project for a couple of reasons. First one being that it's a redevelopment of a derelict property, which our department has had to deal with in the past as far as code enforcement issues, things of that nature. And I think this is a good economic development opportunity for Taos County. And as stated in my staff report and in the record of decision, the appellants have met all of the requirements to get an approval for their proposed projects from the Planning Commission. And so again, I am in full support of their requests. So Madam Chair, Commissioners, so with your permission, what I would like to do is I would like to add in these additional conditions of approval, if I may read them out to you now.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, the first condition would be, as referenced by Mr. Abeta, is to add that emergency access gate to the intersection of Eloy Gonzalez Road and the portion of the subject property where the 30,000 square foot storage units will be built. And also as part of that condition, that will only be for access for 911 purposes only. So it's either going to be just for the fire department or the ambulance services or the sheriff's department. So that's one of the conditions I would like to add. And then the other condition I would like to add is that the appellants submit a revised survey plat to the Taos County Planning Department showing that they will have an access easement off of Highway 64 going through the 5,000 square foot metal building portion of the property back to the 30,000 square foot development that they are proposing. Staff would like to see and approve that survey plat showing that access easement. And finally, Madam Chair, Commissioners, staff would also want to see as a condition of approval that the appellants submitted updated New Mexico Department of Transportation access permit from the District 5 office of the Department of Transportation, giving them permission to use Highway 64 as a full access for both commercial uses. So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, I stand for any questions at this time on my conditions or on the projects in general.
Yes.
There were 2 or 3 conditions. 3, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate them again. Oh, sure, no problem. So again, the first condition would be to install that emergency access gate at the intersection of Eloy Gonzalez Road and where the road enters to the 30,000 square foot commercial building space. Number 2 would be, again, to have the appellants submit a revised survey plat to the Taos County Planning Department showing that there's going to be a new access easement off of 64 to the back part of the property where they will be accessing the 30,000 square foot of commercial storage space. And finally, again, they would need to submit an updated access permit from the District 5 office of the NMDOT in order for us to give them building permits. So again, I stand for any questions.
Any questions, Commissioners?
I just have maybe, do you mind, Commissioner O'Donnell?
Not at all.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. Ms. Meyer-Dean mentioned lighting, and I know that we have our provisions in here, but we've also run into challenges and complaints around lightings, including on our own buildings over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps in the new year, we can take a look together at our Night Sky Protection Act, because that was 2006, and I don't want to put anything else on the planning department's table, but light bulbs have changed since then. So maybe I just want to flag that as something to be extra careful about going forward, and maybe we can adjust our ordinance in the new year.
Okay.
Just out of respect for neighbors like Ms. Meyer-Dean.
Okay, Madam Chair, Commissioner Brush, we do have, when the appellants, should this get approved, the appellants will have to submit their building permits to us, and then when they submit the building permits, what we do is we make sure that they give us lighting schedules for all their proposed lighting, whether it's going to be on the buildings or within the parking lot. And they do have to comply with dark skies, which does require that they shield all their lighting, whether it's on the building or within the parking lot. So it has to stay within the perimeter of the property itself. You can't have any bare bulbs, shining out on somebody else's property. So we definitely look at that at the building permit
And
stage.
thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Perea. I
Okay,
know I'm
thank
kind of
you.
jumping the gun a
No,
little
that's
bit,
okay.
but it just since the public comment mentioned it, I just thought
Sure.
I'd get that in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you. Mr. Perea, could you point me to a map that shows the new access route?
Okay.
Because I've been looking, I'm really confused with
Okay, perhaps Mr. Baker can help with that.
where the office is, but it is not anywhere
Looking for the
in
actual
this
map.
document, or is it?
Madam Chair, Commissioner O'Donnell, if we go to Civil Sheet C4, Anissa, can you bring that up? It's in the thumb drive in the front section before tab 1. It's behind the cover sheet, about 15 pages or so. If the other location to find it, Anissa, is in tab. Yeah, in tab 13.
The one I showed.
Open up tab 13 and go down to Civil Sheet C4, the fourth sheet there. Yes. So if you look at that drawing there, the rectangle that's in a lighter bold is the existing speedway. Off to the right, where you see a square canopy and then a larger square canopy, the proposed access turnout is right there. You'll see the radius is off the state highway. That's the same access that will be used in the revised application to not only access the distillery and the office, but the 30,000 square feet of storage building.
Can you point to the road, please? With a pointer? Am I looking, yeah, could you use that?
You're right. See the radius? That's the entrance.
So they would access that, they would access.
Right
that
here.
area.
Yes.
Right here. Okay.
And
So
that
you
would-
kind of got to revise a new map is,
So the new map would show an access easement from that point along the Rolling Steel Distillery property and then entering the storage units on the southeast corner near the Speedway property. And that's the easement that needs to be surveyed and perfected by the surveyor after the client purchases the property.
oh, you have to still purchase the property.
Yeah, right now it's under
That's from the
contract.
Lore, the Appleseed, are we talking, no, that's,
No, this property is under contract from Polk Oil
right.
to the
Yeah,
client.
okay.
And let's say they close on March 28th. Their deadline is April 1st. Then once we submit the application to DOT with the survey, it takes about 2 to 4 weeks to get. What I can't tell you is that it may take a surveyor 2 or 3 months because they're all backlogged. It may take a surveyor several months to get us that easement and the updated survey. And then we'll submit to DOT. So we may not have an actual approved DOT permit till July or August. Meanwhile, the architect wraps up the drawings on the storage units. The architect wraps up the drawings on how the 5,000 square foot building is being remodeled. They got to go through the planning department inspection review of code review for the type of use on the metal building, the office, and the storage units. And all that takes several months. So this project would probably not get to building till July or August of 23.
all right, thank you for that clarification. I have one more question, Madam Chair, regarding Amanda Dean's comment. Barrier in the back of the storage area, I know it was touched on the lighting.
Yes.
Do you have a condition they put trees or what kind of fence, in other words, to block the view of the storage units. I saw there was some condition for trees somewhere in the front, but do you have a condition for trees or some kind of a barrier? I don't know what type of fence it's going to be and if it could just be shielded inexpensively.
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioner O'Donnell, that we can definitely include that as a condition of approval, because it's my understanding that the back portion of that fence that is adjacent to Frescas Road where the residential units are, it's my understanding that that's just a chain link fence, and the appellants can correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, it's screened? Okay. All
That's
right.
what I was wondering. As long as you've got that screening, then that might satisfy her.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that's already screened. And then, Madam Chair, Commissioners, in the record of decision, you'll also find staff's conditions there for when they do actually start building the project, as far as the hours of operation they can do it, the days of the week and things like that. And the reason that I put those in there is to minimize the disturbances for the residential units in the area, because nobody wants to be hearing construction noises on the weekend. Nobody wants to be hearing construction noises at 10 o'clock at night during the weekday. And so that was the other reason I put those in there, to minimize the impact of this project when it's being developed. Okay.
Thank you. Just when we get ready to wrap up, I have a couple closing comments I'd like to make.
Okay.
I'm just ready to make a motion.
Okay.
So if she's got closing comments, speak now.
I do. I just want to apologize how long this has taken. I know it's very complicated because you've got 3 parcels of land and then you've got to replat, resurvey. It shouldn't take this long. You had to waive the 45-day requirement just for us to be business friendly. We need to think about how we can expedite these projects, because it's just taken too long. You started in June, here we are December, and we need to be business friendly. Obviously, we need those GRTs that you're going to generate from the storage unit and the distillery. I just want to apologize because it shouldn't take that long. Thank you.
Okay, is there?
The closest storage unit available is in Santa Fe right now. Yeah. So Madam Chair, at this time, I would like to make a motion to uphold and approve the appeal with the deletion of condition 21 from the Planning Commission approval, and the 3 new conditions as stated by the Planning Department during this hearing.
I would like to second.
Okay, call for the vote, please.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush?
Yes.
Chair of the Hill?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
we're
Thank you,
done.
Commissioners.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. We are now moving on to, let me get my bearings here. 14A, we're on contracts, agreements, MOUs, and bids, but 14A is discussion, consideration, and decision regarding a lease agreement by and between Taos County and Dream Tree Project, Inc. to provide housing services to individuals and families experiencing homelessness within the county. And our county manager, I know, is going to jump in real quick here. He's trying to get out of that meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Mr. Trujillo is also online. Our legal counsel has been working with Ms. Hummel for the last couple of months, and we're working on a long-term lease, but right now we're proposing this short-term lease that you have before you. Ms. Hummel is still trying to obtain proper legal counsel to review the lease. On principle, she does agree with the terms of the lease. So I'm asking the commission to approve the lease contingent on final negotiated lease agreement between Dream Tree and Taos County. And Mr. Trujillo stands for any questions regarding the actual lease.
Okay, well, I would like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
And I would like, yeah.
Too slow, AJ.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, and I just, before we call for the vote, I did want to acknowledge that our mayor is here and want to thank him very, very much for helping us go forward in being able to utilize this building in the manner that we're going to use it. We do recognize that all the exceptions that this emergency allows, we will adhere to in the future. And so we just want to make sure that we are taking care of the individuals out there that don't have warm homes. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you to you and to the council. And so anything else before, and I will call for the vote? Okay?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I'm confused. Are we going to give this building eventually to the town of Taos, or we're keeping it?
No, this is no transfers to the town of Taos. This is a Taos County building, and we're going to lease this to the Dream Tree for the Taos Nest project. And what Ms. Hummel is in the process of doing is obtaining zoning approval, and so she's going through the process of the town of Taos. The short-term lease is to address the emergency homeless issue, and then we're in the process of obtaining an appraisal that will determine the final lease amount on the long-term lease.
So are we going to continue to own this building, or is the town?
No.
Okay, that was my clarity. And you did get that appraisal where it's $4,000 a month for Dream Tree in exchange, or Nest in exchange. Of course, they can take off the services there. So is that, did we get the appraisal?
No, we did not. We did not get an appraisal yet. We're in the process. That's why we're doing the short-term lease.
Okay, I just wondered how you came up with the $4,000.
I can jump in here. Good morning, commissioners. This is Patrick Trujillo. What we've been doing is we do have an issue with regard to the appraisal. We're working on getting that done. That's been the obstacle in getting the long-term lease done. But what we're doing is a short-term lease based on some comparables. So, these are comparable commercial facilities that of comparable space. It isn't perfect, and that's why we're doing this short-term lease, because we really do need to do the appraisal when we get this done for the long term. The outstanding issues that we still need to work out, and that Catherine's working with her council on, are minor issues in my opinion. They want an offset against the rent for any infrastructure that they put into the building that's permanent, which is reasonable. I think we can accommodate that. And there's one or two other smaller things, but I think we're there. And in order to not delay things further, I agree with the manager. If you could approve this based on what you have, and the manager ultimately working out the final details, I think that would speed this along, so that the funds that Ms. Hummel is trying to pursue can still be obtained in a timely manner.
Thank you. And our mayor, please, I'd like to give you an opportunity to speak. Would you like to go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This building, there was some question last year about the ownership, but that has been cleared up. It belongs to Taos County. The town of Taos' role in this, in my opinion, is very small. We are, through this emergency proclamation, eliminating an administrative hurdle to allow the county to move forward. It's the county's building. Dream Tree is taking on the task of operating. So this is a project that is moving forward and could not have moved forward without partnership between all of us. But I think the town has gotten a lot of fanfare, and I think the kudos really belong to the county for offering the building and to Dream Tree for providing the services. But just want to say thank you to all of you on the commission and to you, Mr. Manager, and to your attorney for, I know this is a big hurdle and it's already cold outside, but we're doing what we can, hopefully as fast as we can, to help our neighbors out there in the cold.
And Mayor, thank you for saying what you just said. You know, it is our belief on this end that we're not concerned with who gets credit. We just want to make sure that what is needed in this community is, you know, is taken care of. But we appreciate the comments, and we know that without this partnership, we cannot go forward. So we could not go forward. So this is very important to us and very important to the groups that are coming together to actually provide those services, because without them, we cannot do that. We're not experts in those areas. So really it does take collaboration. And so we appreciate each and every one that is participating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready to call for that vote. I know we're a little bit backwards on this, but please call for the vote.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush?
Yes.
Chair Vahill?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to, let's see here. Sorry guys, just trying, 14B. Discussion, consideration, decision regarding the approval of a joint powers agreement amendment for North Central New Mexico Economic Development District. And Ms. Monica Beta, hello, and good to see you.
Good morning, good to see you, Madam
Proceed
Chair.
when you're ready.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all for having me this morning. I'm Monica Beta. I'm the Executive Director of your Council of Governments, the North Central New Mexico Economic Development District. And I appreciate you putting us on this agenda. I know it's your last agenda of the year. We are requesting a singular, I guess, amendment to our joint powers agreement. As many of you know, we have an extremely old joint powers agreement that dates back to 1967. So those of you who have looked at it will see that it's quite outdated. Recently, we have had some opportunities to potentially purchase an office space for the organization or to start looking at that possibility. And our current joint powers agreement prohibits us from doing so. It prohibits us from owning real assets. And so what we've done just to be able to act in a more timely manner, we are requesting that the members of the JPA pass an amendment to allow us to own real property, provided that purchase is approved by the board of directors. So this only opens up the possibility of considering it. We need this change in order, for example, if we were going to find a piece of property and ask for capital outlay money or ask for a grant, we don't even have the authority to apply for those sources of funding right now, given this prohibition in the JPA. I also want to let you know that given the outdated nature of the original JPA, we are going to start on a process in January of doing a more comprehensive revision of the document. We realize it needs a lot of updates. So Commissioner Brush is on our board of directors, and we will be asking for probably a committee of the board to assist with rewriting that document. But we know that's going to take some time. So we were hoping that we could get this in front of you and get this adopted before the legislative session, so we would have some ability to work towards a potential purchase of property should it become something we can move forward with. I'm happy to stand for any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Abeta. Any questions, commissioners?
Madam Chair, no questions. I just move that we approve the Joint Powers Agreement Amendment for North Central New Mexico Economic Development District as presented by Executive Director Abeta.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve as stated, and call for the vote.
And just a couple comments after the vote, if I may.
Okay, sure, call for the vote.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush?
Yes.
Chair Vahill?
Yes.
Thank you. Good day, Monica, and it's good to see you. I found it interesting to read the 1967 MOU signatures of Nick Salazar, brings back memories, and it was a very well-written MOU. I wish we could write more MOUs like that. So I just wanted to comment on that. It was like going back in time a 1967 document. Thank you.
Commissioner, it was interesting, and if you read the portion on ownership, it says that we can own dictaphones and typewriters. So it was kind of a fun document to read, but kind of brought home the need to update it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll see you. Be nice to see you in Taos
Thank
again.
you all very much. See you all.
Okay, so let's go on to consent agenda, which is item 15. And I won't read it, but as it's stated very clearly in our agenda, is there a motion, Commissioners?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. A call for the vote, please.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Fambro,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Vihil.
Yes. Okay, Commissioners report matters. Item A, new business to be considered at a future commission meeting. This time I have nothing to add. Anyone else? Okay, Commissioners announcements. Commissioners, any announcements?
Madam Chair, I will be attending my final NCRTD, the Blue Bus Board meeting on Friday in Espanola. On the 13th and 14th, I'll be attending my final New Mexico County's Insurance Authority Board meeting. This Thursday, my final New Mexico County's Insurance Authority Underwriters Committee meeting. So I won't be able to report on those, but I'll get, well, Renell's been giving the Blue Bus times, and that's everything that, you know, we do at that board and everything. So if there's anything else that changes or something, I'll get something to somebody for reporting purposes.
And Commissioner Fambro, I'd like to thank you for your service on those boards. You've represented us very well. Appreciate all your hard work.
And I will echo the Commissioner's sentimental remarks regarding I will be attending the last NPR TPO meeting in Espanola at the Blue Bus headquarters tomorrow. I will be chairing the last Intergovernmental Council meeting in December.
And I would also like to say thank you for your service as well. You've represented very well.
Thank you.
Okay. We are now going to board committee reports, Intergovernmental Council, Vice Chair. No, I'm sorry, IGC. Oh, that would be Commissioner.
Thank you. It
Sorry,
was very interesting. We
Northern.
had members of the congressional delegation staff of Congresswoman Ledger, and they presented on the new Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon Fire Disaster Act that is now in the process of the interim rule that went out November 14th. Public has 60 days to comment on that rule. What we learned that those businesses affected by the fire do not have to reside in Mora or San Miguel counties. It is anyone doing business that was impacted by the fires during that time can submit for a notice of claim. It is a $2.5 billion appropriation that FEMA will administer. Most likely will take some time to see that money, but the other thing that is of interest to the county is local governments can apply. Municipalities, Taos County, and school districts, if they suffered loss, and Jennifer Sanchez is checking to see if we would be able to submit for the Santa Barbara Road that suffered damage during the contingency line, the crews bringing the firewood out and all the equipment during the fighting of the fire, because that road has seen a degradation. So it would be my hope that Taos County would apply to fix that road. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that update. And last, we've got map review. Commissioner.
Madam Chair, it's
O'Donnell,
just for your edification, this is the final map Just wanted the public to know, and that's all I have.
Okay, any questions in regards to the map?
Thank you for making that one correction.
Thank you. Okay, well, is there a motion to adjourn, or we're all in agreement to say aye? We're good? Aye. Thank you.
Be careful on your.
Yep.